is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip, the show that explores the lives of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. These are uplifting stories of people just like you who touch the lives of others just by being themselves. The views expressed are those of the speaker and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of any advertiser or business entity associated with this broadcast. Here is your host, Mark Gunn.
Welcome to the season premiere of Gunshot Straight from the Hip. My name is Mark Gunn, and we're doing things a little bit different this season. Basically, we wanted to highlight stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And our first guest is somebody I've been trying to get a hold of for, 2 years now?
Easily. Hard to nail down.
Yeah, I know, and we're going to talk about that too. Basically, the life of a rock star. You've heard the stories, you've seen it in movies and biopics and everything about life on the road, the toll that it takes on relationships and some of the other things, the pitfalls that can happen. Basically, rock and roll bull. This young man, for about a decade or so, played bass with Billy Ray Cyrus. Also did a couple of stints with his daughter, Miley. I remember that gig.
Yes, I did.
And here locally was with the band, Emeritus, Jefferson Tarkbus. If you're from Louisville, you know about them. Went on to front an AC/DC tribute band. And these days, and you'll see video of this posted on the website, these days you'll find him playing and singing in the group Hairball. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my brother from another mother, Mr. Dave Moody. How you doing, brother?
Man, thank you for having me. This has been a long time coming, and it's been amazing trying to just get this sit down together, because of how busy you are, how busy I am, but I'm just thrilled to be here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to finally get you to sit down long enough. Yeah. And thanks to the boss, Mary, for making this happen. So let's start from the beginning. So you're from Bullitt County, typical teenage kid growing up. What got you into music in the first place?
Well, the first thing that I remember about playing music wasn't necessarily playing music. It was whenever I got addicted to music. My family's from like Eastern Kentucky, coal mines and, country music, that kind of thing. That kind of background of George Jones.
Right.
Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, that kind of stuff, which is all wonderful stuff, and I'm still addicted to that stuff to this day. But I remember one particular day, Mark, I was sitting on my porch. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, maybe, and I was sitting on the porch, and the UPS man come, and he brought a package, and he said, "Hey, young man," it was on a Saturday morning. It was probably about 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. Everybody was still asleep.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there, and they drop off this package. And I go inside. Well, being a kid, you think it's Christmas. It's a package. I'm going to look at it.
Right.
So I opened it up. It was just a bunch of albums.
Oh, okay.
And inside that album, inside that box, you saw like the Statler Brothers, Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, stuff like that. And then Bob Seger came up. I'd never seen Bob Seger. I was like, oh, who's this long-haired guy?
Right.
And then it just kept going. And then I pulled out the be-all, end-all that just stopped me in my tracks, which was Kiss Destroyer.
Ah, yes.
Right.
1976.
1976. So I pulled that out. So I would have been 5 years old. And
wow.
I pulled that out, and I just looked at it and couldn't believe it. Well, one, they had makeup on. It was a drawing.
Yeah,
so
the album cover alone, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so interesting, and if anybody's ever seen that, it's iconic. It's just such an incredible look, and it just draws you in. Even as a kid, I wanted to know what was behind that. So it forced me, that was great marketing, by the way, it forced me to pull the album out.
Right.
And put the needle on the record. And I don't say this lightly, and I mean this with all sincerity. From the moment that I put that needle on the record to the end of that album, I knew at 5 years old what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow.
That's how profound that was. And I never lost that feeling of what that did to me. And here I am today sitting in your studio talking about it. So
that is from 5 years old. Wow. Yeah, I do remember that album. I remember that tour as well. I remember losing my hearing for a couple of days after seeing them. So from Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss being your earliest musical influence, How do you go from, okay, this is what I want to do with my life, to learning to play the bass guitar?
Well, it's interesting. For years, I was, just like we all did back in the day, we played sports.
Right.
So we were always out in the street. You were, I was, we were in our neighborhoods. We would get wiffle ball games going. We'd get baseball games going. We'd play football, basketball. So that really took a large portion of my childhood playing. I was always into music, but we were too poor to afford an instrument or anything like that, So we had 6 kids in the house, and that's a large expense for anybody, but especially at that period in time. But I played sports all the time. And then, and this is absolutely true, I'm not making any of this up, when I got to be a senior, I realized that, okay, I'm getting ready to go out into the real world. This is going to happen, so I need to make moves. I didn't play an instrument. Mm-hmm. I didn't sing. I didn't do anything. Oh. And I went into my counselor's office, high school counselor's office, like they do at the end of your year. They want to know what you're going to do. Well, my guidance counselor didn't have much hope for me, as he probably didn't for many of us, and that's okay.
Right.
But he looked at me and said, "All right, Moody, what are you going to do? What's your plan?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be a musician." Oh. And he said, "Oh, you are? I didn't know that you played an instrument." And I go, "I don't."
Oh, wow.
And he says, "Do you sing?" I says, "No." "Do you dance?" I said, "No." He goes, "Well, then how are you going to eat?" Right. So it's like, I'll figure it out, and here I am 40 years later almost, and I'm sitting here talking to you about how I've made a living doing it, and it's just been amazing. And I just started from day one. Mm-hmm. I found some friends that played. I saved up my lunch money and bought a guitar, and my friends taught me some chords. I was on my way, so it just progressed from there. And then the thing that benefited me the most in the whole journey, I wasn't as talented as most people were on the instrument or anything like that, but my passion and drive really forced me to rise above a bit. So
basically you were pretty much self-taught.
Very much.
Wow.
Very much so. Yeah. I never had a guitar lesson. Mm-hmm. I had a few chords thrown at me, and then I watched people. I went, oh, I see what he's doing there. Okay. And then every now and then I'd look at somebody and go, "Hey, man, how'd you do that?" And they show me, go, "Oh, that's cool," and then I'd apply it to my craft, so, but it was definitely organic and do it yourself. So I never had money to go get lessons. I never had, it was poor, so this was a necessity. And it was either this or asking you if you want fries with that, which I've done that too, so,
Right.
And I'm just one step away from asking you if you want fries.
And the thing is, so because you can't see this, Dave is a rather large individual. How tall you're? What?
6'5".
6'5". Yeah. So during high school, sports could have or would have or should have been a given at that height. And there will be some people that say, well, 6'5". You're wasting that height, kid. What the heck?
Well, that's true. I was a very good ball player. Uh-huh. I could have went to a small college like St. Catherine.
Yeah.
I had them looking at me, and I got honorable mention and stuff like that in Kaywood Lefford's book and things of that nature. So I was a great player. Not great. I was good. Right. But it just wasn't. I loved this. I remember saying it to Mary. We was talking. We was at a ball game. We was at the Steelers game. Okay. And I remember saying to her, "Man, I just miss the locker room. I miss hanging with the guys. Yeah. I miss that camaraderie." But you get that in the band. You get that. Yes. But it's kind of like a sporting event because it's you against, proving to people. But the competition aspect of it, I definitely miss that.
Man. All right, sorry. Once again, we are talking with Dave Moody, who is one of the lead vocalists and bassists for the band Hairball. We've got more with Dave coming up in just a little bit because he's a fledgling musician, but where do you go from there? More coming up with Gunshots Straight from the Hip.
If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. While you're listening to this episode, this is where you would hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your business can be exposed to thousands of listeners at any given time. Your commercial is professionally produced and, depending on your message, can have a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program unlike any
anything else in this particular space, episodes are available on many podcast platforms, which makes the potential for new customers that much greater. Most of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you want more information on how to sponsor this program, call Mark Gunn Media at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or visit our website at markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com.
Mark Gunn Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.
Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip, the show that explores the lives of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. These are uplifting stories of people just like you who touch the lives of others just by being themselves. To download this and past episodes, go to markgunmedia.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. Once again, your host, Mark Gunn.
Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip. My guest for this new season is Dave Moody of Hairball. And again, we're talking about stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So we've got you grown and gone pretty much, and you're learning to play bass. You're picking up chords and things from other people. How did you get into your first band?
That's a funny story too, as is my life. I mean, it never really, it's funny when you think about how things people laugh at how things just happen to me because of asking questions or whatever it might be. I'm a curious guy. So I'll ask you questions, or I'll throw it up. If you shoot it down, that's fine, but I'm going to ask. Back in 91, something like that, Carl Casper had the car show down there.
Right.
And they had the band battles.
Yes.
You remember the band battles?
I remember those, yeah.
So I called a friend of mine, Wendell Williams, and I said, hey, man, I want to start a band and play the car show. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And I go, well, I'm going to sing. And he goes, oh, man, I'm in. I got to just be seeing this. I got to see this happen. And I want a front row seat. So I got together with these guys. It was Wendell Williams, Austin Head, and Billy Parker. And, they were neighborhood friends. And we threw together a handful of songs that we loved. And we got together and we sucked really bad. And the show sucked really bad.
Right.
And we were horrible. But I'll never forget that feeling, Mark, of getting in front of people for the first time and expressing yourself and being yourself. That was profound. No matter how bad it sucked, it didn't matter. That wasn't the point of it. That's not where you're landing. That's where you're starting.
Right.
And that's okay. And that's why I tell a lot of young musicians, it doesn't matter where you're at now. It's just keep going, But I remember after that show being just so overwhelmed with joy and passion and fire for what it was. And I just wanted more of it. And that's where it first started, the Carl Casper's Auto Show.
Wow. All right, so from Carl Casper, you're grinding for a few years. Jefferson Tark Bus comes along. You become local Louisville legends as far as the music scene goes. That's pretty much where you and I met. And you're going along, and all of a sudden, he's playing with Billy Ray Cyrus. How does that happen?
Well, again, I have a friend that one of his quotes about me was, if Dave said he was going to build a rocket ship to the moon, I would believe him.
Okay.
If he said he was going to do that, I said, well, that sounds about right. That's what Dave does. But at the end of the day, what happened was prior to Jefferson Tark Bus, I was in an original band for like 8 to 10 years. So I really tried to make it, like we all did back in the 80s. I literally, we gave it our best effort, and we had a few albums, and none of them independent. And no record deal or anything of, substance or anything like that. And then after I realized that, hey, man, this isn't paying my bills. I need to do something musically that's going to pay my bills and do this on the side versus making this my main hustle and not my side hustle. So I took the main hustle, made it a side, and took the side, made it a main.
Right.
And it turned into Jefferson Tark Bus. That was an amazing journey in itself because that band started out, I remember talking to Steve. Steve had been in a lot of our singer, Steve Clark.
Yeah.
He had been in a lot of bands that were just note for note proficient. They were deadly serious musicians. There wasn't a lot of joy in what they were doing. It was well, we got to be exactly right. We got to. But when he got with me, I said, man, you're not having fun. You want to have some fun.
Right.
And he said, well, how do you mean? I go, well, let's loosey-goosey, man. Let's have some fun with this, So we learned a bunch of material, went out. Our first gig was not great, but it was all right. And as time progressed, it developed its own little flavor, its own little taste, its own little acquired taste, kind of like Sterling beer was here. Sterling's never going to be confused with Heineken.
Right.
It's never going to be confused with St. Pauli Girl.
Right.
But Sterling in Louisville, Kentucky is great beer.
Right, exactly.
So that's what Tark Bus is. Tark Bus is the Sterling beer of bands here in town. So we ended up having so much fun on stage that it projected to the audience, and they didn't come to watch somebody play math. They watched somebody come to feel the music and be part of it and be, like in the womb of the music. So that's what we did, and we offered a good time to go with it. So one day I'm sitting around, and I had grown up working with Billy Ray's brother, Mick Adkins.
Oh, okay.
And he had been on tour with Billy, and this is before the Miley thing hit.
Right.
And he calls me, and he says, hey, my brother's looking for a bass player, and I want to know if you want to try out. And I was like, yeah, I do. Never played a lick of country, never played with my fingers, never thought about it, even though I do have a extensive country background.
Right.
I had never played it. I was always rock oriented. I took to it like a duck to water and played, and I got the audition. I went down there. It was between myself, a Nashville session, and an LA sessionist.
Oh, okay.
So these guys could play with their toes better than I could with my hands.
Right.
They're just that good, And for one reason or another, after it was all said and done, I got the phone call, and they were like, yeah, you're in the band. Come on, you're going with us, young man. And I played with him for almost 10 years, and it was remarkable.
Now, in that 10 years, because, again, typical rock and roll bullshit, you've heard the stories about the excesses, how some bands survive, some artists survive, some artists fail, and you've been very upfront about your issues with addiction over the time. When did that start, and take me through that?
My father was an alcoholic, but he was a fun alcoholic. And,
right.
Just like I was a fun alcoholic until it wasn't. But not was, is. But it's cliche, and it's trap, and it's all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, the stuff you think you need is not stuff that you really need.
Right.
And it took me a long time to learn that. And one day it was just like, I knew I had to do it. I had to change myself. I had to look at myself. I had to change what I was doing. And 9.5 years later, here I am sitting clean and sober, and and I joke about it quite a bit. I always tell people, like right now after this interview, I'm going to go get drunk. I'm not going to get drunk. But I laugh about it. So I have a great sense of humor about it.
And then part of the journey through sobriety, because it is a one day at a time thing, is the support system that you have to have in order to be able to go through the journey. Not only is sometimes your bandmates can be part of that support system. They can also be part of what holds you back and what endangers your sobriety. But you happen to have met this angel without wings that has been with you throughout this whole journey. And whenever I talk about Mary, and I'm not only saying this because she's sitting here, it's like I look at the two of you, and it's like, okay, this woman is partly responsible for saving this man's life.
Totally.
And then you have the aspect of being on the road for over 200 days a year.
Sure.
Take me to the beginning of the Dave and Mary story. How did you two meet?
We met each other actually down on 4th Street. It was when it was called Felt. And
yeah.
It was called Felt. And she came down to see a show, and we hung out, and we've been together ever since. The poor thing. She got in my tractor beam. Right. She came into my tractor beam, and I wooed her with my ways. And, And but it without her, and she knows this, and I say this, I tell her all the time, it wouldn't be possible. There's a lot of things in my life that happened, and the steadiness is what I needed. That's what she does, and it's amazing. And I don't say this thing like you said because she's sitting here. I tell her this stuff all the time, almost ad nauseum. Like I'm so thankful, and she knows that. But when we met, it was instant. We knew, we got married a year and a half. It was a year and a half later. I think it was. Yeah, it was very quick. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she has been with me through everything and seen the best and worst of all of it. And it's amazing how long that we have been together, but it doesn't seem like it.
Right.
That's the thing. It does not seem like it. It doesn't seem to me. Maybe to her. Probably to her. But to me, not so bad. Right. All right. But as far as your question about being on the road, there are ways that it can go sideways or wrong or whatever it is. But there's things. There's trust. There's the separation of it is a good thing. It sucks.
Right.
Time to time. It does suck. She'll fly out. She'll come out and see me, or she'll come to a show if there's a beach.
Right.
And,
I love it.
She'll come to places where it makes sense for her to come, and we break it up. And we break it up real nice. She'll come out and hang out with me in those venues, in those places. But the separation aspect of it is what makes everything stronger, believe it or not.
Tell you, once again, we are talking with Dave Moody of Hairball. Life on the road, rock and roll, and a whole lot more. We got more coming up in a minute. It's 104.7 WLOU Jams. It's Mark Gunn's Gunshot Straight from the Hip.
As a business owner, one of your biggest concerns is how to market your products and services. What message do I want to send? Who am I sending it to? How do I reach the largest number of people possible? And how do I make it cost effective? The answer to all of these questions is Mark Gunn Media. Mark Gunn is a radio and multimedia specialist with almost 50 years in the industry. He's an award-winning voiceover artist, audio producer, and radio personality who's used his expertise to help thousands of advertisers throughout his career. Just ask anyone that's worked with him, and they'll tell you that Mark Gunn Media gets results. If you're looking for an effective marketing strategy or any multimedia voiceover work, call Mark Gunn Media at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or contact us at markgunmedia.com.
Mark Gunn Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.
Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip, the show that explores the lives of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. These are uplifting stories of people just like you who touch the lives of others just by being themselves. To download this and past episodes, go to markgunmedia.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. Once again, your host, Mark Gunn.
Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip. And again, we're doing something different this season. We are highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. This time around, I've been chatting it up with my brother from another mother, Dave Moody, who is the bassist and one of the lead vocalists for the tribute band Hairball. You'll be able to see some of the video and more about them on the link to this episode. So if you want to get more information about Hairball, you can do that and find out how you can book them if you've got shows coming up. So we're talking about life on the road and what it's like to be away from the road. How do you keep a marriage together with a schedule as crazy as yours?
Well, it's her. It's all her. She literally books my flights, tells me where I'm going, points me in a direction, and I walk, so it's just the way it works. But this job, where I'm gone 220 something days. I think you said 245 last year, and it's a lot. But I'm not qualified to do anything else, so this works out just great. But if you have somebody like Mary that has all of that together and she can situate it for you, and she's kind of like my personal tour manager, and she has everything together. So that's how it works out.
So let's talk about Hairball for a minute, because again, this is such an unusual endeavor. I mean, you've seen tribute bands before that are dedicated to one specific artist. They're, in fact, the AC/DC tribute band you were in before Hairball. I remember the transition between bands and how quickly it happened, but I never got your side of the story. So how do you go from being Brian Johnson or Angus Young to Gene Simmons, Dee Snider, Alice Cooper.
Call me Sybil.
Right. So how did Hairball hear about you, or you hear about them?
Well, Thunderstruck was a band that was based out of Louisville, Kentucky, proudly. And we caught on very quickly and took a great part of the nation, on tour. We bit off a lot, and we did a lot, and we was really excelling. It was amazing how much we was a big Live Nation draw. We was playing huge rooms, doing festivals and fairs and things of that nature, and we was doing like the House of Blues in every city, and just big venues and big theaters and big festivals. And I was perfectly content. I wasn't bothering a soul. I was just sitting there minding my own business and enjoying what we had built and where we were going, because we were really killing it. By killing it that good, somebody's going to stand up and take notice of somebody.
Yep.
Somebody is going to see something. Well, Hairball's raspy voice lead singer, who did all the voices that I do, which is Brian, Dee Snider, Quiet Riot, Cinderella, Alice Cooper, Gene Simmons, Brian Johnson, those Lemmy Kilmister, all of that stuff. So that guy had left, and they had been watching me, and I got a phone call from Mike Findling, which is the owner of Hairball. Right. And he calls me and he says, "Dave, we have an opportunity for you. Want to know if you'd be interested." And everybody had known of Hairball. Now, Mary hadn't known of Hairball. Right. A lot of people here in the South didn't really know of Hairball, but if you was in the business, you knew of Hairball. They're like the Supreme Court of cover bands.
Right. I mean, that's a very apt description.
It is. It's like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra of cover bands. It is a big deal. To even remotely be invited to try out. And I get a phone call. He puts a horse head in my bed, that kind of thing, I go, well, I got to go look at this.
It's the offer you can't refuse.
I at least got to go look at it. Right. And we got in the same room, and I think it was like 20 minutes after I got done, they offered me the job, which was amazing, to even think about. So my head was swimming. Most importantly, I was worried about what was going to happen to my guys. If I did leave, what was going to happen to them?
To Thunderstruck,
And I did not want them to lose anything. It took me 2 weeks. They gave me that grace period, was very kind. They didn't have to do that, but they did, because business moves quick. But they really wanted me, and they gave me the time. And after thinking about it, I realized that it was the best move for my family and my situation. And I was going to do everything I could to make sure that Thunderstruck landed on their feet without any problems and didn't have any issues at all.
Right.
And that's the way it worked out. And it worked out the absolute best that it possibly could for both entities. So it was wonderful.
And if you've never seen Hairball, again, I'll post links to some of the videos that you can see online. In fact, I was able to create a promotional short with the last show that I saw. And there are an incredible amount of moving parts. Everything from the 5 video screens to costume changes.
Pyro.
You're doing makeup.
Yeah.
It's
a Broadway play.
Yeah, I mean, that's a far cry from what you were doing before.
Correct. It was a huge learning curve. You're talking makeup, costuming, all of that stuff. All intents and purposes, it's a Broadway play. Everything about it.
Yeah.
Everything about it, with the kind of music that I love. And your movements, your mannerisms, your vocal performance, the timbre of the actual character. We have 3 singers that specialize in different voices. Like, I'm not going to sing Steve Perry. That's not happening.
Right.
So you got 1 minute you're going to see Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, the next minute, and looking, sounding, acting, and being Paul Stanley. And you're gonna know it's not them, but I'd be damned if you ain't got to do a double take, right? Right. You're gonna go, oh man,
wait a minute.
That looks real. I don't even have to suspend disbelief. That looks real. The next moment, you're going to see somebody coming out looking, sounding, and being David Lee Roth.
Yep.
Axl Rose, Alice Cooper, Motley Crue, Kiss, Cinderella, Whitesnake, Bon Jovi, Queen. Name it. I mean, we got over 40 characters that we can do with a drop of a hat. We can change the show. Let's say that we did 3 shows in one day. We could change the show 3 times in one day. Not even the same character will be repeated.
Wow.
Maybe 4 times.
Right. And then you just added, and I got a huge kick out of this, you just added Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead recently.
Did.
And you just got the replica bass too.
Yeah, the Rickenbacker.
The Rickenbacker?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So the thing about Hairball, it's more built around the big hits, the monster songs. You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer.
Right.
school's out, rock and roll night, party every day. You could be from Zimbabwe and come to this show and know these songs because they're so popular, right? And this band doesn't really cater to that style. But I told them, I said, this is a character that everybody adores, that everybody lows.
Right.
Everybody loves Lemmy. And everybody kneels to Lemmy. Everybody
Right.
Lemmy.
It's like,
they bow. He's the Johnny Cash of rock and roll.
Right.
So when I brought it up and they go, well, show me a look. The jacket with the mutton chops and the hat and the hat and the bass, and they went, that's it. That looks just like it, and it sounds just like it. And I bought the bass, and it's so cool, Mark. Whenever he comes out, people know that presence, that look, and they lose their minds. They cannot believe that we're doing Motorhead, and there's just all this fire and just coolness. And Lemmy doesn't have to move. Lemmy, he just stands there.
Now, do you have your mic positioned the way he does?
Correct.
I love it.
It's up
and angled down.
I'm singing with my neck straight up in the air. Yeah. If you like to gamble, it's
right.
It's that whole thing, man. I mean, you got to get it, and people lose their absolute minds. They cannot. For three, we only do one song.
Right.
For 3 minutes, that's the hardest 3 minutes you're gonna get, man.
Well, with anything out of oh man,
very cool.
You got to throw the game in there.
Oh my God, time to play the game.
You got to throw the game in there. I'm telling you, you have some WWE heads going. Wait a minute,
you know what? That's not a bad idea. There are a lot of. I'm going to bring that up because
a lot of wrestling fans.
I didn't even put that together. I just love the song.
Yeah,
because I'm not a big wrestling guy.
Oh yeah, so Lemmy's got a huge relationship with WWE.
Right,
has for years.
Right,
and the game. Well, actually, he did two songs.
Triple H, right?
Yeah, Triple H. Yeah, did the game and King of Kings.
Yeah,
was the second one that he did for them.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry. There's three. The third one was Evolution.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that.
He did,
I'm getting educated.
Yeah, there you go.
but you're right. I mean, the game would be a great one.
Yeah.
I'm
for giggles, man.
I'm going to pitch that. And the next time you come out, you're going, oh my God.
They did it. I'll tell you what, we're going to take one more break because there's one aspect of everything that you do musically that a lot of people don't really notice, but the ones that do, it's actually very cool. More with Dave Moody coming up. Mark Gunn, Gunshots Straight from the Hip.
If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. While you're listening to this episode, this is where you would hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your business can be exposed to thousands of listeners at any given time. Your commercial is professionally produced and, depending on your message, can have a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program, unlike anything else in this particular space. Episodes are available on many podcast platforms, which makes the potential for new customers that much greater. Most of all, it's extremely cost effective. If you want more information on how to sponsor this program, call Mark Gunn Media at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or visit our website at markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com.
Mark Gunn Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.
Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip, the show that explores the lives of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. These are uplifting stories of people just like you who touch the lives of others just by being themselves. To download this and past episodes, go to markgunmedia.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. Once again, your host, Mark Gunn.
Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip, and we have been talking with Dave Moody, my brother from another mother, and talking about his journey through music, a Louisville legend. I am going to pin that on you because of your longevity in this business and your ability to do what a lot of people haven't been able to do. It is actually make a living on the road. We've talked about how you got there, some of the pitfalls, the journey you went through, the ongoing journey through addiction. And one of the things that I see you do at every show, and this is something that maybe a lot of people don't notice, is I love the way that you work with kids. either behind the scenes or even during some of the shows. Like the last show I saw, there was a kid that came up, and I think he played guitar for you guys. But that's something that you do all the time. You're always working with kids. And there's a light that you can't see it, but it's a feeling. It's like, here's this big kid working with these other little kids. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about passing things down, paying things forward.
You nailed it. That's it. I mean, that's 1,000% it. Mark, I say it all the time. I don't own my blessings. I'm renting them. They're mine for a little period of time. It's my job to give all of them away. I remember a story about Muhammad Ali, which is one of my favorite stories about him, he was riding with a cab driver, or he was riding with somebody. There's a lot of stories just like this. And he was giving the cab driver some money, and the cab driver was like, I don't want your money, Mr. Ali. I don't want your money. It was a pleasure just giving you a ride or whatever. And he goes, no, take the money. It's for your family. Take the money. Take the money. He goes, I'm not taking the money. And he says, no, you got to take the money.
Right.
And he says, no, I don't want your money, Mr. Ali. I don't want it. I don't. He goes, look, dude, I'm trying to get to heaven. Here, take the money. You know. So Ali, in many ways, if you're from Louisville, he's your guy. Yeah. You know, so that's the man. But at the end of the day, I don't own one single blessing that I've got. And if I can help one kid or one person or anybody achieve what they're trying to go for, no matter what it is, I mean, it could be in music, it could be a doctor, it could be, a ditch digger. I don't care. Whatever your passion is, I'm going to encourage it. I'm going to challenge you to go for it and say, man, this is worthwhile. This is great. But especially when kids come into music, because there's nothing better for a child to be more rounded. We were talking about this earlier. The first time that I heard WLOU, Miss Vivian,
our CFO,
she was talking about it, and she'd been here for 40 years, correct? I remember the first time I heard WLOU, and it was Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, Cool Modi, the things of that, like Prince, whenever I first heard him for the first time, was WLOU. All of this stuff, and you got to think, not as an urban kid, but as a white kid out in Bullitt County, to hear this stuff was life-changing. The great thing about that is it develops a palate for you to enjoy, experience, and understand other cultures. And if you can tap into that, man, it's the best thing ever. And that's what I try to encourage kids to do, because music will round you out, man. It will grow you up. It will make you understand that it's not just where you live, it's where you go.
Right.
So I'm always encouraging these kids every chance I get. So yeah, you're right. We have as many up as we can.
Just to clarify for those that may not be familiar with the radio station that Dave is talking about, WLOU is one of the oldest urban contemporary radio stations in the country. I happen to serve as its program director and the vice president of programming for our parent company. So that's the reference that he was making. And anytime that I see you, in all the years that I've known you, I have never seen you in a bad mood. Having been in bands myself, I know that happens.
Right.
We both know the craziness and some of the crap that can happen from day to day, from time to time.
Right.
But I have never seen you in a bad mood, and I'm going to hold Mary responsible for part of that. But there's something else that's going on here. There's something that I always see on a more spiritual level.
Absolutely. God is good. I'm all about that. I'm a Christian man. For sure. My faith is strong. But at the end of the day, Mark, that is genuine. You have a lot of people who ask. I just did an interview with Tony and Dwight. And,
right.
And whenever I called, my wife was listening, and they asked, hey, man, what's going on? I said, hey, it's good to see you. And they go, surprise, he's in a good mood again. He's never in a bad mood. He's always in a good mood, always positive.
Right.
Man, as much as I got the last story from Ali, I got this next story from Willie Nelson. And Willie Nelson lives a life of Tayo. He's just very peaceful. You keep negative away from me. That's what he says. I don't need it. I don't want it in my life. If it doesn't serve a purpose, I'm out. If it doesn't do good, I don't want it. If it doesn't help somebody, I don't need it. If it's not to give back and be of service, then I don't have any use for it. If it's just to tear down and destroy and all of that, I'm not that way. I've never been that way. And I'm a firm believer in, do unto others. I'm a firm believer in positive mentality and positive reinforcement of others and just spreading that, because listen, anybody can be negative. That's easy. You want to impress me? Stay positive in this world. Stay positive. I do. I'm not saying that I don't falter. I don't fall. I don't have moments. Everybody has bad days. Everybody. But I would say 95% of the time, man, my day's pretty chocolate. I love it. It tastes good.
And the thing is, when and this is something I can totally relate to. It's like when you are doing something that you're extremely passionate about, you never work a day in your life.
Facts.
And there's no reason to ever have a bad day when you're doing that.
Facts.
No matter how much crap that you're faced with.
Right.
At the end of the day, look, I'm doing something that maybe 1 or 2% of the people on this planet are able to do. And that's exactly what it is that they have had a passion to do for a long, long time.
Correct.
And so I get it, man. I get it. Well, we wrap this up. Any words of advice for any fledgling musicians that may be listening or trying to get on the grind, don't know where to start, or don't know where they are at the moment?
Well, it goes back to what you just said a moment ago. If you do what you want for a living, you'll never work a day in your life. Now, what I've learned in my journey is that you call it the kind and proper word for it, and the complimentary word for it is persistence. I call it stupidity. But, it really is important to have persistence, work ethic, determination. Don't allow the first wave to knock you down. Keep getting up. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have moments of doubt. You're going to have times when nobody's your friend. Nobody's going to believe in you. You're the only one you got.
Right.
If you're not believing it, then nobody else is believing it. And I believe that in 1,000%. My family, who were successful people, they're in business and they do very well. And my brother Claude, who was the patriarch by default, would always try to get me to go to school and go to college, which is admirable. You do that. Yeah, that's fine. And I would constantly tell him and my sister, that's not me. I know you don't understand it. And they'd be like, I don't get what you're trying to do here. You're not making any money. You're not achieving it. She goes, I wish you would just go back to school. And I was like, I am in school. You just don't see it. I am in school.
Right.
I'm in a different kind of school. You just don't understand it. And that's okay. But whenever I get there, you'll understand it. Right. And then we can talk, but it takes time, effort, determination. You got to really ply your craft. You got to network. You got to be your own carnival barker.
Right.
You got to have your own ability to get yourself out of bed, self-motivated. You got to love the grind. You got to love the work. You got to embrace the suck, man.
Right.
I mean, that's just what it is. And if you do that, I promise you, and this is in any aspect of any profession or any job or anything that you're doing, if you do that, 9.5 times out of 10, you're going to achieve. You're going to get there, because so many people quit because it's hard in the beginning.
Right.
That clears your path, man. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking towards the goal. Keep moving towards the goal. You're going to have people in your life that are not going to be there for the long haul. You're going to get that. I'm 53 now. I'm still friends with a lot of people that I played with. But they quit early, and they're still back there going, man, good for you. That's awesome. You kept going. Good for you. That's awesome. So if there's any kids out there listening, or any young musicians, or anybody that, entertainers, actors, stuff that is not of the norm, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going, man, because it's not easy. I lived in a trailer, and my wife will back this up. I lived in a trailer with no heat, practically no electricity. I didn't have a sink.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have a door so much as something you pulled off and then put it back on.
Right.
And I was happy as all get out, because I was doing what I wanted, and I knew where I was going. So if you can do that, God bless you. You can do it.
Now, if people want to learn more about Hairball, how can they do it?
Hairballonline.com. And we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that good stuff. I encourage you to come on out. Again, you don't have to know a single song. You don't have to know anything about the production or the show. You're going to walk in, but you're going to float out. It's a great show. We got 5 video walls.
Right.
More pyro than a 70s Kiss concert.
Right.
And we're there to make your eyes bleed and your eardrums bleed and just make you hurt when you walk out. But it's
a good hurt.
It's a good hurt.
It is a good hurt.
And we mean it. It's as honest as it gets. The only thing that's flown in is the keyboards, because nobody likes keyboard players. So we fly in the keyboards to jump, maybe a little Bon Jovi. But other than that, it's 100% live. Mm-hmm. And in this world that we live in, where everything's faked and flown in, you gotta want some real, man, and we're old school real.
I'm telling you, hand to God, and I can bear witness, a Hairball show is unlike anything that you will ever see, period.
Thank you.
So if it's coming to your town, you can check for tour dates. Make sure you go, okay? Dave, this has been a long time coming, but I'm so glad that we were able to get this done, man.
I love you, brother.
I
always
love you
have.
too.
And you good people, you solid Louisville people, and I don't get to see my Louisville people that much.
Right.
So when I tell people all the time, whenever I get a Louisville hug, that's different. I can get one in L.A. I can get one in Oklahoma. I can get one in Texas. But
a Louisville hug is different,
a Louisville hug's different.
Speaking of which, while we're wrapping this up, please remember our Random Hugs of Kindness initiative. So doctors will tell you that it takes 12 hugs a day for the average person to maintain healthy emotional balance and well-being. So our challenge is for you to hug at least 5 people a day, 4 people you know, and 1 person that you may not know. Because
I did 5 of them in here.
Yeah, you did 5 of them in here. Exactly. Because everybody's fighting a battle that you don't know about. Right. And you look at somebody and, it's okay to ask, you okay? Would you like a hug? And if they're receptive to it, go ahead and give it.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, there is nothing more beautiful, nothing more life-affirming than somebody giving you that type of positive energy. So,
absolutely.
Again, thank you again.
Oh, man, I love you. I love you so much, man. So good to see you.
Once again, it's Gunshot Straight from the Hip. You can download this episode and past episodes wherever you get them. Go to the website, markgunmedia.com. Find out how you can be a sponsor, and we will have more life-affirming stories on the next episode.
You've been listening to Gunshot Straight from the Hip, the show that explores the lives of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. These are uplifting stories of people just like you who touch the lives of others just by being themselves. We're always looking for feedback and show ideas, so reach out to us by email. mark@markgunmedia.com. That's mark@markgunmedia.com. Make sure you check us out for the next episode. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.